The Stadium Heads podcast, Independence and FCS Bangers episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your first time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. They just introduced college football best ball, which I've been waiting for forever. So glad a company's finally doing it. That's why you got to jump on over there and check out UnderdogFantasy.com with the promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL projections are now live. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride.
This is Jerry Glanville, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, brother.
One thing that's been done in any case is education. More education, the more informed people are. That's the way it is with everything. The young ones, they ask me advice, and I always tell them, get as much knowledge as you can.
Stadium Heads, man.
The granddaddy of them all, the famed Rose Bowl, jammed with a color of over 100,000 fans for its 67th renewal.
And the weather here today at Notre Dame Stadium, in a word, it is cold, but it is football weather. The temperature 37 degrees, humidity 79%. Forecast cloudy for light rain later on this afternoon.
The average person doesn't know what a good stadium is. They might think they know what a good stadium is, but they think just, oh, our seats are nice and it's so comfortable. We have a 10,000-inch screen we can watch the replay on while we're watching the game, and we got a waiter coming over to take our orders, right? And there's 20 million bathrooms close to us. That's not what makes a good stadium. A good stadium is the look of it, the feel of it, the history of it, the soul of it. That's what makes a good stadium. That's what I mean when I say we're stadium heads. We are stadium heads.
They get to run around. Now those people, they shouldn't even be there. That doesn't even count. If you can't get out in the elements, you shouldn't even go to the game. That's the worst thing. Those darn boxes up there, and dome stadiums and stuff. We don't need that, right?
Welcome to sunny El Paso, the 52nd Sun Bowl, and now
this ancient facility is one of the great settings in all of college football. Neyland is now in its 87th year.
That's what we are, though. We are stadium heads. Welcome back to the Stadium Heads FBS Independence and FCS Bangers episode. We wanted to look. We had a kind of a throwaway week here where we're like, wait, we got games coming. We're gonna the next week we're gonna dive into games and travel schedule and just where everyone will be. So we thought, what can we do this week? We didn't talk about the FBS Independence, and there's a few FCS bangers that we wanted to highlight. So that is this episode. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Hop on over and hit that like and subscribe button. Look, if you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, that is fair. My name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Nobody knows nothing. Somebody knows. Double the price, but no one touches Dundee.
We will be talking about some fire stadium. Shout out to Robert Martin getting here early in the chat. Checking in early, gentlemen. He says, cheers to Mr. Barker and old Pick Dundee. Appreciate Robert Martin. Loyal listener. Those are the good ones. Those are the keepers. I am joined by my co-host. Well, look, he is the most interesting man in college football, I like to say. But, I try to get creative with the better intro. But then I heard the ESPN one, and it's just a lot better. So.
Barker. You can follow him on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. This is his 84th college football game of the 2023 season. He said he's going to end at 90 college football games he's attended this year with the college football national title in Houston. So, again, He's out there with everybody.
He's like
wet
US
weather.
Postal Service. Rain, sleet, snow. It doesn't.
Rain, sleet, snow. I gave you Michael Barker. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Rain, sleet, snow, and computer difficulties. Is that another reason to show up here? So I am not in my usual comfort zone with some technical difficulties, but we got the phone, we got the earbuds going, we got the notes in the background. Hopefully we can make do and talk about some more great D1 stadiums.
Yeah, and look, and if for some reason our audio cuts off, you'll still see these slides that I built, and trust me, if you're a true stadium head, it might even be a better episode without my stupid voice. You know what I mean? Like you're just sitting there, just looking at all these beautiful college football stadiums. We want to preface that we did have some technical difficulties right before the show, but so hopefully we make it through all this. But at the same time, this is an episode that we just felt. And I don't want to speak for you, Michael, but I felt like, we kind of were like, what should we do this episode? Some people had voiced that we hadn't highlighted Notre Dame Stadium yet and some other stadiums in the FCS and stuff like that. So I think that was kind of the logic behind this episode. Am I missing anything?
No, I think that if we could do it all over again, we probably would have done Notre Dame with the ACC. We could have done the 2 FBS independents, maybe with Conference USA, because there's only 9 teams. And then, there's, as you mentioned, we're going into the season, so we can't go into many more FCS conferences, the Missouri Valley or the CAA. So I think this is a good way to kind of, like you said, a bonus episode, but do some cleanup work. We're also going to talk about 2 schools that are joining FBS next year in the Conference USA, which is Missouri State and Delaware. So 3 independents in FBS, 2 coming up to FBS next year, and then 7, we're calling them bangers. I think the best of the rest out in the FCS that I think are worth highlighting.
Yeah. Shout out to FBI Tugboat. Shout out to Dick Trickle and Robert Martin. Giving us $50. Let's get that CFL Stadium Heads podcast going. Hey, I appreciate that, Robert. And I gotta find that's really. And we've been talking about that behind the scenes. Maybe we can make that. Maybe we can make that come to fruition at some point. Like we've talked about that before, but we're grateful regardless. And I'll make sure that perhaps we can. I'll notify you when we make plans to do something like that. Maybe on this very show we could do a CFL episode. It's only 9 teams, so I do host the CFL gambling podcast as well. But we are grateful, very very grateful, Robert. Look, I want to dive into these stadiums, but before I do that, I want to tell the folks out there that you are listening to the Stadium Heads podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. The Sports Gambling Podcast just launched their 32-team NFL preview series. No matter how ridiculous and terrible that new NFL kickoff is, there's still money to be made in the NFL. All right. There's 32 team previews. They're going to give you an edge stacking the money in Real Money Kramer. All right. And they're giving out a $500 circa future for the listeners, plus the EPL return. So make sure to check out the Soccer Gambling Podcast and the EPL Gambling Podcast for your footy fix, as they say. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and the SGPN app, which is available to download for free in the App Store and Google Play Store. All right. Now we jump back and look, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Look, if you're listening to this on the audio side, that's fine and dandy. We are grateful. I think the visual side is better though. And so if you get a chance, if you've been listening to this on the audio side, make sure you go seek that out. I think it improves the show a little bit there. I got the slides here. Let's load them up. These will be the teams we're talking about. Obviously, it's not one solo conference. We will be talking Notre Dame, UConn, Umass. Those are 3 FBS schools for this season. And as Michael alluded to, the 2 entering next season, the Delaware Blue Hens and the Missouri State Bears. We will be talking about then Central Arkansas, the Citadel, Lehigh, North Dakota State and South Dakota State, Western Carolina, and Youngstown State. And the last time Michael visited these places, he's visited them all, but not all for games. There was a certain for whatever reasons, there were not games played. So he visited the campus. And, but last time he went to Notre Dame was Florida State, Notre Dame in 2018. The last time he caught UConn at the Rent, was 2022 as they hosted UMass rivalry game. Last time you were in Amherst was, checking out Eastern Michigan a couple of years ago in 2021 at the McGurk against UMass. Last time you were checking out the Delaware Blue Hens, they were taking on fucking Sacred Hot. But in 2021, you caught Missouri State in 2022 against UT Martin. You caught Central Arkansas in 2022 against Missouri State. You caught the Citadel in 2022 against Samford. Lehigh, you've been, but not for an actual game. North Dakota State, you've been obviously for the Youngstown State, North Dakota State game in 2021. And South Dakota State, you caught the playoff game a year ago that they just obliterated the Albany Great Danes. Also, Western Carolina didn't go to a game, but you've been to the campus. And Youngstown State, the Icebox, you were there in 2023 as the North Dakota Fighting Hawks came in there. I know that I just threw out all out there. Was there any ones that just, I know we're going to go through all of these, but is there anyone that jumped out, or did I fuck up a graphic? What did I do here? Tell me something about your travels. Tell me about the two places you didn't catch a game.
Yeah. So the two places I haven't caught a game is Lehigh and Western Carolina. Part of the reason that they're on this list is I really want to go for a game, and Lehigh is Goodman Stadium in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and it is, got this rural valley setting with like mountains in the background, and it looks really cool. And then almost the same thing in at Western Carolina, EJ Whitmire Stadium. It has a great backdrop, and so those are two I want to get to. I do, pretty soon, like you said, next episode we're going to start talking about exact schedules and dates and everything. But I do have Lehigh on my schedule so far for this season. Western Carolina, I'm still looking for a spot for, but there's several Saturdays that are still open. So those ones I really want to get to, just because I think that they're bucket list FCS stadiums. And then ones that maybe jump out on this list, obviously Florida State at Notre Dame, 2018, Notre Dame just absolutely obliterated Florida State. That was, a good game to watch. I've been to two UMass UConn games, one in 2018 and one in 2022. So that's fun to catch those rivalries. And then, you're talking about Youngstown State, the Ice Castle. It has a great history for FCS playoffs, and South Dakota State has obviously been dominant the past few years. So I've been up there a couple of times, and then the Fargo Dome. So, we're going to get into it, but I think that all of these are significant. And, I've had fun reading comments from the shows where people have said they learned some things and found out about maybe some stadiums they want to visit in the future. So maybe we can continue that and introduce a few of these to people to spark future trips for them.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things, shout out to Weehawk, by the way, he says you need to get the Cullowhee. I do too. So maybe we could figure that out at some point. But one of the things I think, go support local college football. You know what I mean? Like, or, obviously it's great to go on a trip and, support whatever you can when it comes to college football. But, I sit in the studio in Los Angeles with, 20,000 games on. It's great. I'm not knocking that. I encourage, if you could pull that off, that's great too. But I still say nothing like boots on the ground. So go out there, support local college football, man. Like whether it's, I don't give a shit if it's a JUCO, you know what I mean? D2, go out and catch college football live. Do yourself a favor this offseason because, I circle a game on the calendar that you're going to go to that maybe live in Northern California and you say, I've never been to a Cal Golden Bear game or a UC Davis game or something. Circle that. I challenge you. I think you'll dig it more than you realize. Let's get into this though, because we start with the Golden Dome, which it's tough to beat this. Gonna talk a little bit more about this in a second, but I do want to tell folks out there that the Stadium Heads episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. If you go 8-0, you can win 325 times your entry, or play fantasy football the right way with Best Ball. Best Ball Mania is now live with $15 million in prizes. I mean, I told you, we just dropped an episode regarding the college football best ball draft we did. Hop on over there, check it out. And Underdog just launched their season-long college football projections. Let me tell you, this is stuff you can't get elsewhere, folks. Like, to give you an idea, let's say you think Texas is going to struggle. We've seen their starting running backs already out for the year. And, or you think Dion in Colorado is going to struggle. You can take the lower passing yards for Shedeur Sanders at 3,250.5 for the season. All right. You pick a minimum of 2 players from at least 2 different teams. And it's just, you're not going to find that elsewhere. They're going to give you that edge, to me, that if you're a real hardcore college football fan, you're not going to see elsewhere. So hop on over there. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries as well. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com promo code TCESGPN. All right. Back on the Stadium Heads podcast, talking Notre Dame Stadium. I am one, my oldest brother's a diehard Notre Dame fan. So like, I grew up hating them, to tell you the truth. Like, I hated Notre Dame because I want to see his misery. That's brotherhood for you. You see him happy. His team's winning national championships with Tony Rice. And you're just like, God, I hope they suck next year. Right. And, but you then realize as you age that Notre Dame does college football right. And I am really hoping, I know they just lost their starting left tackle for the season. I'm really hoping that they're hosting a playoff game year one. Notre Dame Stadium, South Bend, Indiana, 94 years old, seats 77,622. If they're hosting a playoff game, I mean, we might have to finagle away to get ourselves out there to the Golden Dome. Look at this place. I have not been for a game, but I've been here. I've been exactly right here. I've gone right up to the gates, but there was no game that Saturday. Tell me about your travels to South Bend, because this place to me, it's sacred. This is a sacred football spot.
It is. And, this is as far as you can get, period. This is not a stadium where you just kind of waltz up there and there's a gate unlocked and you can go hang out. Like, this place is protected, and there's a reason for that, because it's one of the cathedrals of college football. And it actually looks like a cathedral now. There in 2014, there was a major redevelopment done. It was called the Campus Crossroads Project. And in a similar way that they improved Florida State Doak Walker, where they embedded buildings and then wrapped it, they did the same thing here with the Duncan Student Center, O'Neill Hall, and Corbett Family Hall. And they turned this into, you talk about maximizing space, but it also updated the exterior look to something that is just really beautiful. And I've been there for 2 games. This picture is I've been there for 1 game and a spring game. So this is from 2018. They played Florida State, and it was a 2-for-1. Went there, watched Eastern Michigan during the day, and then got there for the night game. And I mean, it was like 40-7 in the third quarter. And you really, the drama of the game was out of it, but you really got to take in the atmosphere. But I will tell you that I got there too late to actually roam the stadium. And so earlier this year in April, I went to the Notre Dame spring game, and that was an opportunity to walk around that stadium and take it in. And I remember walking in there for the spring game, and I thought to myself, this might be the best stadium in all of college football. You got Touchdown Jesus, the Basilica of Sacred Heart, the Golden Dome on the administration, all things that you can see on the daytime outside of the stadium. And everywhere you go around Notre Dame, it's an artifact, it's a statue, it's a trophy. It's unbelievable. So, it goes without saying that this is maybe the ultimate bucket list campus stop in all of college football.
Oh man, I was trying to find the sound drop. I have about 1,000 sound drops on here, and I never play this one, but it's on here somewhere. So I don't have it by muscle memory of where exactly it is. But it's here's one from the movie.
And you hung in with the best college football team in the land.
But it was really like, this is the greatest sight these eyes have ever seen. There's a scene in Rudy where Rudy's father finally gets to a Notre Dame game to see him. And, he gets there. He's in front of his wife, by the way, and he goes, "This is the greatest sight these eyes have ever seen," which is just questionable from a relationship standpoint. But
yes,
I thought about your statement there when you walked in and said this might be the greatest stadium you've ever been to, or the greatest college football stadium you've ever been to. That it's almost exactly what the guy said in Rudy in a way. This place is phenomenal, and I really think them hosting a playoff game this year would be maybe the greatest thing that's happened in college football in a long time.
Yeah, and there's an opportunity there because, let's say that all the Power 4 conferences, they go undefeated and Notre Dame goes undefeated. Let's just say they're not going to give Notre Dame a seed above somebody that won a conference championship. So automatically they would be hosting a first-round playoff game, which we would love. And, they've been in the playoff before, so it's very possible. And, we've said this on other episodes. Can you imagine a December game in a cold weather place? Well, take this to like level 10 when you want to use that analogy.
Yeah, and this is a shot from the spring game. If you're wondering, this would never be that empty in a real game. Rob Donaldson says South Bend is football centric, and that makes a great stop, but so boring after the game. Not true. Hit the linebacker in and hit the Legend Sports Bar across the street, and there's a comedy club there. I'm trying to remember the name of it that I've done a couple times. I'm being a horrible host right now, and I can't remember the name of the comedy club right now. But anyway, yeah, they're still fun. Hit the linebacker in. This place, this shot right here is fire. I know it's not it's a spring game, but it's a great shot, man.
Yeah, and that day during the spring, I went to 11 o'clock lacrosse game. Lacrosse, Notre Dame was number 1 in the nation. They won the national championship last year, and then it was 1 o'clock spring game, and then it was 2:30 baseball game. So it was all Notre Dame the whole time. And they didn't let the upper level fans go there, so you can kind of see the ring around the top. But when you get picky as a stadium traveler, sometimes you want to see a stadium during the day. Sometimes Neyland you want to see at night, and other places. And this one I got to see in both. And like I said in the beginning, when I walked in here, there's something about how close the bleachers are to the sideline. So when Knute Rockne wanted this stadium, first of all, it's a scaled down version of Michigan Stadium. So Michigan Stadium opened with mid 70s, and this one opened with 54,000. So now it's 77, but that was what it was modeled after. And one of, they call it the house that Knute Rockne built. Well, the reason is because he had actually put his fingerprints on a lot of designs, and one of them was he wanted the bleachers right next there, so the opponents felt like they were on top of them, which has been copied in several other stadiums. But, you talk about aura, you talk about mystique, you've talked several times about imagine all the players that have played on there. It's endless. And, they put in lights in 1982, so they were playing all day games through there. Another thing that us college football fans would really appreciate, there's no advertisements or corporate signage allowed inside the stadium.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So there's no, Budweiser this and, other places, or make sure you vote or whatever.
It's the opposite football. Of the NFL. The complete opposite of the NFL.
Yeah. When you said dynamic kickoff, I was thinking of another D word, right? So we got to cling to places like this that don't cash in on that corporate dollar.
And in case you're wondering, folks, he's talking about when he says 70s. Michigan Stadium wasn't built in the 1970s. He's referring to how many people, the attendance,
capacity.
The capacity. Yeah, exactly. And Rob Donaldson, that's right. You are correct. It was the drop comedy. Get yourself out to the support some live comedy too. That is exactly it. Yeah, these photos, man. And look, you go around campus. I did have a chance to do this, and it's fucking it just blows you away. You're just like, wow. It just looks like you're like in like a fairy tale or something, right? It's just insane.
It is.
And
and this is the indoor practice facility. I got to see that, and I went to a basketball game, and they got all these different trophies from every sport. And the campus buildings, you can go on there during the day. Obviously, you can check them out at night. You got Knute Rockne statues. They got the original cut off piece of a goalpost from the the prior stadium before Notre Dame Stadium. And really, I haven't been there for a game since 2018. So right now, I actually have it penciled in for November 9th playing Florida State again. And we'll see if that holds. But Valparaiso is playing at 1 p.m. and that's about an hour drive to Notre Dame Stadium. And the Florida State game is a night game. So I think I can do both. We'll see what happens. But I want to get there, and I want to get there again. And, I've said on previous episodes, my photos have improved. So these are the shots that I want to duplicate 6 years since my previous visit and, just capture Notre Dame Stadium. If you said to me you thought it was the best stadium or your favorite stadium in college football, you would get absolutely zero argument.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's right there. Like, it depends on the day you talk to me. Some days I'm like, that's the best stadium. Some days I'm like, no, it's third, but it's definitely top 10 to me.
Absolutely.
This is a top 10 stadium. Tell me about this, well, to the right you have, if you're youtube.com/@stadiumheads, SGPN, to the right you have, it almost looks like, maybe a program or just some type of wall mounted.
Yeah. So
what's that?
That's the stadium from 1930. So that's what it looked like in the very beginning. And, we're talking about 94 years or 96 years or something since then. And, that it grew with the times and they didn't junk it and start over, and they built it up. So those are on display in the basketball arena. There's a lot of photos that are, trophies that are out that you can take. And then on the left is, you showed the daytime shot of Touchdown Jesus. Well, that's what it looks like lit up at night, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Incredible. Just incredible here. If you're ever, and look, it's not that far from Chicago, folks. If you go to Chicago, you can pull this off and go back to your hotel at Chicago in Chicago. Essentially, so I don't recall the exact time, but it's not that far.
It's about 2:15. That's what I would put it at.
Yeah, yeah. This campus is friggin' unbelievable, man. And even the outside, right?
You lean into the campus tour aspect. So, this is one where, let's say you watch a game on Saturday night, like, go to your hotel, don't get out of town. Don't be in a hurry to get out of town. Wake up Sunday morning. They have, I think they have like church services on there. So if you want to do that at Notre Dame, you can do it, but you also can go and watch. Not just the football stadium is nice, but they have invested, not surprisingly, in all of their facilities. Their lacrosse stadium is really nice. Their soccer stadium is really nice. So this is one where, you want to go there for football, but you also tour the whole place because you'll love it.
I'm sorry. This shot right here. What's going on here?
So I try to bring the real shit to the people. That's what I try to do. And so, I'm roaming around the stadium. It's the spring game, and the spring game started at 1 p.m. There were people tailgating before the sun came out, and that was like 6 a.m. And I was like, this is hardcore, and I really like it, So I went to the lacrosse game I mentioned, but when I came back, this is probably, so kickoff at the spring games 1:00. This is probably 1:09. Okay, like 9 minutes into the game, and I saw this dude. He's in full painter suit, get up. He was sitting and he just crawled in that hole and started to go to sleep. And I tried to creep up and take the photo. The family, they kind of turned their back and were looking at me. And then I waited for them to turn and I got photos. And, we put out the caption, do you want to see a dead body? Please call for help immediately, those sort of things. So, and it's funny because could you pull this off at a Notre Dame football game regular season? Nope. But spring game, you want to drink a lot and then pass out right when the game starts. Nobody's gonna mess with you at all. I saw there was like 30 ushers up there because they had less of the stadium to have to be responsible for because they closed it off. Nobody came and said, "Hey, get out of here, you're drunk." They let them chill. So dead body at Notre Dame Stadium.
Fantastic. Nothing like tailgating for a spring game at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. That's getting it in. There's another shot of the dead body, and then with the 1930 Notre Dame football team. Incredible.
Yep, the year they opened the stadium.
Absolutely incredible, man. Next up, folks. But before I get there, I want to tell the people that. The Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. Football season is here, and college football and NFL models are now live on Rhythm. Create your own winning betting model, or let Rhythm do the heavy lifting for you. You decide what stats matter most for you, and then Rhythm will build a custom model around that. Or just let Rhythm and its predictive models do all the heavy lifting for you. Rhythm uses AI projections from MIT data scientists. Rhythm already has you covered for NFL Week 1 and college football Week 0. I like the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets plus the points against Florida State. I think it's 13. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you'll feel if you win your office Survivor pool, but didn't enter the Circa Survivor. And look, if because those picks would be good anywhere. You'd be a millionaire had you just entered Circa Survivor. If you don't have a trip booked yet for Vegas before football season, may I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend. It's a great time to go out. You can hang with my pals, Ryan Real Money Kramer and Sean Stacking the Money Green from the Sports Gambling Podcast, and CJ Sullivan, the Bet Detective. Some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. Use the promo code SGP15 to save 15% off your hotel room for that weekend. And of course, sign up in person at Circa between now and September 7th. You can use a proxy to play from anywhere. You're not going to have to fly back every week. We even have a deal with a proxy. Go to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. We are back on the Stadium Heads, and now we are talking about another independent, the UConn Huskies, Pratt and Whitney Stadium there, the Wrench, where everyone gets twisted. They call it the Rent. I call it the Wrench. Wrenchler Field there, Hartford, Connecticut. 21 years old, seats 40,000. Tell me about your travels to Hartford.
So I've been to 2 games at the Rent, and both versus Umass, which is the rivalry game, one in 2018. It was a nor'easter. It was probably me and the bands, and that was about it. And it was an ugly game, but it was fun. And this was a Friday night game in 2022. I did a Twitter poll, and I said, where do you want me to go? There were 2 games on a Friday night. One was at Boston College, and one was at UConn. And college football sickos want you to go see UMass UConn, so they sent me there, and it was a second time at a rivalry game. And it's a nice stadium, built in 2003, newer, and they did a good job. We can get into the shortcomings of this situation, but stadium wise, just solely looking at a stadium, this is a very nice, I'll call them, UConn is on par with G5. So it's a very nice G5 newer stadium.
Yeah, this program's a sleeping giant still. With their basketball success, and I just did the UConn preview on the College Football Experience podcast. Go listen to that, because I did a 23-year deep dive on the program, and they really, I understand they had a couple really bad seasons, but there was a lot of really decent seasons in there. They played in, was it the Fiesta Bowl? They played in one of these. Yeah. Yep. Jim Mora, I think I'm kind of bullish on them this year. I think they're going to be a bowl team again. So, and now with a looming 12-team playoff, I feel like, you talk to a lot of people in the Northeast that they can't really get on board with college football because they'll say, you don't have a playoff. Well, first off, that drives me crazy, but now there is that path where you could, I feel like now in today's college football, moving forward from this season on, it's going to be easier to birth new college football fans. And the sky's the limit to me. I mean, this is a very nice stadium, man. This is a very nice, I know it's not on campus, but it's nice.
Yeah, and that's the issue. So, first of all, we talked about this on previous episodes about how the number of independents has shrunk, and there's 3. And UMass, we're going to talk about next. They're joining Conference USA, so there's going to be 2. It's just going to be Notre Dame and UConn. And yes, there's a playoff spot opening, but to see independent UConn getting that spot or something else that seems kind of far-fetched in my mind. I think that, they have had times where they're good, but the stadium setup is 23 miles from campus. So it's located in East Hartford. It's about a 30-minute drive from Stores, where the campus is. They had a stadium there. It was Memorial Stadium. They played in there from 1953 to 2002. They demolished it to build a $40 million basketball practice facility. And we know that basketball makes, UConn, and that's what they're known for, but they basically put their football team without a home. And, in the mid 90s, there was talk where maybe the Patriots, if they didn't get what they wanted for a new stadium, they were going to do a joint venture with UConn. And in the midst of those negotiations, they made a deal with Gillette and they moved to Foxborough. And they took that joint project and they scaled it down and made it UConn only. So in some sense, they have a great setup where, they have their own stadium and it's not shared with an NFL team. But the fact that it's 23 miles off campus, it's harder to get people to come to games. And, it's to see the old stadium where it was located right in the center of campus and Stores. It feels like, a setback, but winning cures all. And if they catch fire, like you're talking about, Coach Mora, they could do it. It's just, the stadium head in you wish you could go back and be like, do not tear this on-campus stadium down. This is great. And, it was too late, obviously.
Yeah. That is a bummer, but I still think it's a nice looking stadium. So
very nice.
Yeah. And this was obviously, they need the fans have to come. These were two like 1 in 10 teams when you went to this game, I think, or something around there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a rivalry game, so you hope that it would, even on a night, a weeknight, they would get people there. But yeah, you're not playing you got two independent teams who are below 500. I mean, what are you really playing for if you're just gonna, be 100 about it?
Yeah, yeah. What else do we got here? Rob Donaldson wants the civil conflict trophy back. That was the worst. The UCF and UConn rivalry, the civil conflict. This is college football, though. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you're 30 minutes away from campus. Once you get this shot right here, this is beautiful right here. This is, to me, college football.
And how often do you get to see a rivalry game on a weekend or a weekday? Last year I did Georgia Southern versus Georgia State on a Thursday, and they sold the whole place out. I've been to App Coastal a couple times on Thursdays. They've sold it out. So even though this was not a sellout crowd, obviously you saw from other angles. Right here, you can see the band is into it. The stadium looks really nice, and UConn won, so they gave everybody what they want. But we want this, full crowd every time, and hopefully winning will bring it. But yeah, this is exactly. I want to mingle with the band and catch a vibe and showcase, a place like the Rent properly on social media.
Yeah, and shout out to Josh in the chat. It says UConn signed a bunch of high profile transfers. I'm with you. I think UConn is going to be good this year. I think they're going to be a good football team. So this place will be a little excitement to it. I think this fall. Get yourself out to a game if you're in the area, folks.
Hey, let me ask you a question. So what does it say about them if they're, besides Notre Dame, the last remaining independent? Like, can they sustain that? Do they need to do a conference move? Like, what's your opinion on UConn moving forward as the only non-Notre Dame independent in FBS?
Well, first off, I hope we're living in a world where you can always be independent. The whole history of the sport is built on, hey, the conference doesn't want to let us in. Well, we'll schedule. I mean, Florida State did it. Penn State did it. Notre Dame's done it. I like a college football world where there is independence, but for UConn, I do think the Big 12 or the ACC, I don't know why the ACC hasn't called them yet. They made the mistake of not calling them 25 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever it was. But I think, their football program has a ton of potential. And it's funny, you talk to a lot of the UConn basketball fans, and some of them say, well, no, they shouldn't join the Big 12. They're home in the Big East. And I get it. I host a college basketball experience. I love college hoops. UConn does fit the Big East, but I also think big picture, I don't know what the Big East will look like in 20 years. So I think you'd be a fool to pass on the Big 12 invite or, ACC invite's different. I think the Big 12 has more stability than the ACC right now, but I still think the ACC, if you can form some type of bond with Syracuse, Duke, Carolina, Virginia, then maybe that league can flourish. But it seems to be a little more unstable right now. I feel like the Big 12 has got stability moving forward. But I mean, I would like them to join a conference for their football program. You know what I mean? Maybe they can, but the Big 12 is going to want them, or the ACC is going to want that basketball program to be a part of it. It does, that's a no brainer. So, but I'm hoping for more independence, to tell you the truth, because I do think it helps. You should never, part of the beauty of college football is if someone's telling you no, you can still do this. You know what I mean? Like I don't want it to be the NFL, where the NFL, no, we voted, we couldn't add you. No, if you pay enough money right now, I don't care if you're Sonoma State. If Sonoma State wakes up tomorrow morning and says, damn it, we're going to be a D1 football program. They pay that $5 million fee, right? And they become a D1 program. And guess what? They don't need a conference. They can do it the old American way. You would just go schedule a bunch of teams. All right. I never wanted to be that controlled, and I fear that it's going to be, but so I'm okay with them being independent, even if they don't join the Big 12 or ACC long term.
Yeah, I hope that they can, move forward and get games on the schedule and do all that, that they need to do to, we're used to the football team being the one that is the draw out of everything, but UConn basketball is so great. It's a little bit of a different discussion. So I agree with you. They have so much potential. As you said, they've reached pretty high heights going to Fiesta Bowl a few years ago. And, I'm excited to see how things play out for them this year.
Yeah. And I would like, I'm all over the place, cause I love the Big East basketball. It's like one of my favorite conferences to watch, but, I could see them in the Big 12. I think they fit in the Big 12, considering who else they added in, or the ACC. Like ACC's got a bunch.
Big 12 is a good basketball league too.
Yeah, really no, it's really gotten good over the past decade or two. But I also think like to sit there to stay stagnant in the Big East. Greg Sankey's like kind of hinted at comments being like, we don't, we want to expand the NCAA tournament, but there's also like, if you read between the lines, sometimes it makes you feel like they're going to separate from the NCAA, which means like, what does that even look like then? Right. Are you part of the NCAA tournament? And I'm not talking next year. I'm talking about like long-term. So I don't know if you're a UConn basketball fan that you want to be in the Big East when all that shit goes down. So
I hear you.
Yeah. Anyway, obstructed view alert, youtube.com/@stadiumheadsSGPN. What's the percentage? It's 15%, 25%. What are you doing here?
Well, if you can see the 50-yard line, then it's more than 50, and you can on that left photo. So this is not the worst. Let's call this like 58% something. But this is a newer stadium, and it was built like this, I believe, originally with a press box. So normally when we get these obstructed views with the press box, it's because they built the stadium without a press box. They added the press box. They kept the seats on the side. They didn't remove them. It's funny. But, 21-year-old stadium, something happened here in the design. And, of course, I'm there to exploit it as much as possible.
Oh, man, it's still a nice looking stadium, man. I dig that press box. Good looking press box. Apple pie donut. Tell me about this.
What else do you need to know besides apple pie donut, right? That's like, so, I'm always trying to do notable concessions to show people. And, on a cold night in East Hartford, Connecticut in November, you go up there and you could pair your beer with an apple pie donut. I think that's a good munchies treat right there. So yeah, apple pie donut at the Rent in East Hartford, Connecticut.
Love it. Next up, we go to their rivals, UMass, the McGurk Alumni Stadium. They are leaving for the MAC next year. This is their final year as independent. Look, I saw some kid do a video recently calling this the worst D1 football stadium. I completely disagree with him. and I would argue to his fucking face. All right. I would argue it to his face about that. Now, obviously all this is subjective, but Amherst, Massachusetts, the McGurk is 59 years old, 17,000 seats. I don't mind the stadium. I kind of like this stadium. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. And, you have to understand, like, what else is out there. So there's no track. There's a football facility in the end zone. We got a nice press box there. The turf looks nice. I personally, and I don't know how you feel about it, I like Massachusetts and Connecticut more than UConn, Umass. There's something about it. I like those, even though they're long, and I just like the way that Massachusetts looks there. So when you do go on the outside, there are some, areas like the back of the bleachers, or there's a little bit of space where you go to the bathrooms. It could be done nicer from like a maintenance perspective, but when you get inside there, it's a 17,000 seat, one level intimate stadium where, we don't know, we don't have that many examples of this place rocking, but it's an on-campus G5 stadium that suits the needs of Massachusetts football. So I don't think it's the worst stadium in FBS either.
Yeah, and Nolan in the chat saying better than UNLV's situation. That's damn right. Unbelievable.
Oh, did you see that tweet yesterday about UNLV? Did you see that one where they had the sphere in the background and they said, "Oh, name a better backdrop"? And oh my God, I was like, well, how can you see the sphere when you're inside Allegiant? So this is a much better situation than UNLV. Absolutely.
That's hilarious. I didn't see that. So they touted the view from the stadium. That's a fucking dome with no view outside of the dome.
Their practice field had a view of the sphere in the backdrop, and they said, name a better backdrop. And I was like, first of all, this is your practice field. And second of all, you play in a dome and there's no view of anything.
I can name one about 15 miles away, Sam Boyd's backdrop of this beautiful desert. You fucking losers.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with Nolan in the chat. Love Sam Boyd Stadium there, and this stadium though, McGurk. I kind of dig it, man. It's not top 25 or anything, but I don't think it's a bad stadium. I think I could name worse.
And it's improved a lot, so open in 1965, they put permanent lights in 2008, they put field turf in 2014. They added the football performance center in the north end zone. The south end zone, they used to be open. They knocked down and put some outdoor suites out there. They've played in the mid 2010s. They played at Gillette a little bit, but for some bigger games. But this place, another thing that's been a big talk of college football Twitter is they're hosting Missouri this year at McGurk. And
I can't wait.
So to get an SEC team going up there for a 17,000 seat stadium, I went there in 2021. They played Eastern Michigan, and you got a crowd probably around let's say 60% capacity for them. That place is going to be it's probably going to be the record crowd for that game, because not only are all the UMass fans going to want to see an SEC team, but I'm sure there's a lot of Missouri fans that want to travel to a location they don't go to. So I would say that if people want to judge McGurk properly, tune into that. I believe it's either October 5th or October 12th. I think it's October 12th, Missouri. You're going to see what a peak environment looks like. There will be a lot of Mizzou fans that may take over the stadium, but you will see a sold out McGurk. That's for sure.
Well, I'll tell you this: like Don Brown, he won there before, and like I said, I just showed a slide. They won the national championship in the FCS in '98. And I know a lot of people say that they should still be FCS. I disagree. I think they joining the MAC. I think Don Brown will have this program in decent shape joining the MAC next year, and I think they would be in contention to win the MAC. I don't think I think they will be next year a team that could realistically make the MAC championship. And then you don't have to look that far back in history. Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, where Toledo, had they not blown that game last year to Illinois, where they would have been in the mix for the group of 5 berth. So, and then you're in the 12-team playoff, and then you build on that. So I think they're in a decent spot. Now that kind of goes against what I said with UConn, because I do think UConn could be a power school. It is a power school to me. You know what I mean? Just like football has teetered off a little bit, but you don't have to look that far back. They were in a Fiesta Bowl. You can't say that about UMass. I think it's a different scenario, but I think joining the MAC is a good thing for UMass.
Yeah, and I will tell you that I'm excited next year to add a new MACtion team. I've been to Ohio 4 times. I've been to Toledo 3 times. I've been to Eastern Michigan. So it's nice to be able to get a new team added to a G5 conference. And, they also have Buffalo up there in the Northeast in the MAC. So they're not all the way by themselves. But yeah, the reviews people are giving on this place, we say it all the time, the boots on the ground may change your mind. So look at the pictures, read the good, read the bad, and then hopefully you can make a trip up there and check out McGurk for yourself.
Let's go. Next up. Well, there's that shot too. I like that shot. You got
that was the sunset shot that I waited for. It was probably like 2 minutes before the end of the game, so the crowd wasn't as good, but got a nice shot there.
Yeah. The Delaware Blue Hens, Delaware Stadium in Newark, Delaware, 72 years old, seats 18,500. Delaware has had a great football program for a long time. I have gone down the rabbit hole over the past couple of years, but I remember in the 90s watching big time FCS championship games and playoff games at Delaware. But I went down the rabbit hole just watching their wing tee in the 80s with Rich Gannon and shit. And dude, it was fire. That off.
Beautiful.
Go watch that. That tape is out there on YouTube for a lot of their games. But this program has a deep history. Like I said, Rich Gannon, obviously Joe Flacco. They have just been a winning team. I know it maybe teetered off a tiny bit over the past 5-6 years, but they still had a Final Four run in the spring season with Nolan Henderson at the quarterback spot. They're joining the Conference USA next year. And I can tell you, me and my brother have already consulted about getting up there for a game because we are excited for the Delaware Blue Hens to come to the FBS.
Oh, I'm with you. And, as a traveler, Kennesaw State is joining FBS this year, and they joined Conference USA. And I've been waiting to see them for a game. And when I knew they were joining Conference USA, and then Conference USA started those weeknight games, I knew that I would just wait for that. And they're playing 2 in October this year, so I'll get to Kennesaw State. Well, Delaware is kind of the same way. I saw a playoff game in 2021. They played Sacred Heart. It was a great game, and I got to do that, check that out. But I've wanted to see them ever since then. They've kind of outgrown the CAA. The CAA has changed, just added some teams, and the quality of the league from top to bottom has hurt them sometimes in the playoff seeding. So I think that, the combination of teams leaving Conference USA and other FCS schools like Jacksonville State and James Madison having success right away in FBS, I think that inspired Delaware to try to make the move. And you're right. They have a great football history. They have a very nice stadium. They have a great home field advantage. Their overall win percentage since 1952 in this place is 742, 332, 114, and 4. So they win 75% of their games here. And I think this is going to be a seamless transition to FBS when they make the jump next year.
Yeah. And I have a theory. Like I love the FCS as much as anybody, I feel like, but I think the FBS should represent at least one school in every state.
I agree.
So I think New Hampshire should be in the FBS. I think Vermont should start their football program. Unbelievable that they don't. I think Maine should be in the FBS. And then I think your second school can then be in the FCS. You know what I mean? I'm very excited about Delaware jumping to the FBS, and I plan to hit some of those games. I'm sure I'll join you there. And this stadium's kind of cool, man. We got a little forest back there.
It's really nice. I mean, it started out with 9,000 seats. It got up to 18K, and they somehow squeezed 23,000 against Temple in 1973. They added permanent lights in 2000. They added field turf in 2010. And, as much as you want to do things to get your stadium right, I bet you Delaware didn't think when they founded their program and built the stadium, they'd be anywhere close to FBS football. So it's cool that it's grown with the times, because we're going to talk about a couple other schools here coming up where they ditched their old stadium, and that's unfortunate. So this place has evolved, and again, it's 17,000 seats. That's not a deterrent for anybody jumping up now because the 15K requirement is not there. And I think I had fun when I went there, and I'm looking forward to go back again.
Yeah, and shout out to Filet-O-Fish in the chat. Have you done Idaho? Yes, the Big Sky preview is out there. Just type that into the search engine and on YouTube, and you'll get that. Love this. Go Hens. They got to get what is this right here?
It's this very famous bathroom, and this is the P wall, and this is a Delaware stadium staple forever. And, it's extremely sought after bucket list destination to go and take a piss there. So I did a video of myself pissing, and you could hear like the circulation going through because they just have these urinals running the whole time. And, you can't have stage fright in this place. You got to be able to step up there amongst other people and get the job done. But this, there have been a lot of talks about, and there's been renovations to the stadium.
No, don't keep this here. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's normally you're going to, hey, let's get that eyesore bathroom out of there. This is people, they will fight you to keep this place. So next time or first time somebody goes to Delaware Stadium, if you think you've seen it all inside the stadium, if you don't go on the P wall, then you didn't do all that you needed to do at the stadium. So this is and you also, taking a photo in a men's bathroom is not.
I was about to say, like some people look at it, you're like, what the fuck is this guy doing here?
Yeah. So the playoff game, you wait for opening kickoff and everybody's staring at the field, and then you can run and take the bathroom photo. Don't go there during halftime and try to film 12 dudes going to the bathroom. That won't work for you. So
absolutely hilarious. And what is some type of victory bell here or something? What do we got here?
I think so. I don't know the backstory from it, but they got a lot of these bells on the field, and they make for cool photos.
Yes, Rob Donaldson's about to buy a plane ticket to take a piss in a square room there.
It's kind of like, what was that movie, Saw? It kind of reminds you of like the Saw, like the escape room type thing, except all you can do is piss. That's the only thing you're allowed to do. So, but yeah, we love those quirky college football traditions, and you got to do it. So Delaware Stadium, hang on to that P wall as long as possible.
Don't change, Delaware. Don't change. Next, we head to a team that's joining the Conference USA with them, Missouri State, Plaster Stadium, Springfield, Missouri. 83 years old, seats 17,500. Tell me about your experiences there to Springfield. Whoa. Okay.
Hold it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to say this right now. If you vote for me on November 7th to be president of the United States, I will make it mandatory for every single university to have a helmet car. These are the important questions that they're not asking our presidential candidates right now. This is fantastic. This makes me want to go. The best part about the Rose Bowl is the UCLA still rocks it. I know Washington, the Huskies still rock it.
Yeah.
Every fucking team should still have this. And if they don't have it, then go out and recreate it. This is part of the experience. This is part of when I was a child, every stadium had one of these in the corner of the end zone, and it made it feel better about being there. It's like, oh hell yeah, they got the helmet car. Tell me about your travels to Springfield.
Well, you already have my vote because I don't know where Trump or Harris stand on helmet cars. So, that's a very important issue for me. But no, the helmet cars are fire. I can think Memphis has one, and there's no reason not to have it. They're cool. They're photo spots. Everybody.
What does that cost? Like $1,000? Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, you could repaint it every time, because we got colleges changing their helmets and logos. All you got to do is paint the helmet and you got it. So yeah, I agree with you. But so obviously Missouri State, they're joining Conference USA next year. Plaster Stadium, built in 1941, only 8,500 seats. It's doubled in capacity. It's had a couple names, Briggs Stadium, which is the winningest coach in program history, Arthur Riggs. Robert Plaster was a donor. That's how he got his name on there. But they've done a lot of improvements here as well. So that side right there is actually the shorter side, but it is the east side they redid, and They put in a press box there. They that's the student section. They removed the track from the stadium and they repositioned the field to make it more centered. And, they've done great strides there. I went there in 2022 and it was the season opener on a Thursday and they played UT Martin in the playoffs the previous year in 2021. They had an epic game against UT Martin. So it was great to see that back to back. It's kind of like what Albany and Idaho are going to have this year. But this one, Missouri is an underrated football state, and they have been chomping at the bit to go up. Obviously, Bobby Trino was there for a little bit, so they have some big aspirations, and maybe they're not like perfectly positioned for an FBS school as far as geography, but I think that if they can win, Conference USA has proven to be a launching pad for a lot of other programs, and they want, they're pushing their chips on the table and they want to see how it goes.
Oh, I love it. And this is one where Patty C always, says like every, I know I made the case every all 50 states should have, even Alaska, put them in let's get it going. But in the FBS, but I also like the second tier because one of the things is like when you have the state to yourself, there's certain schools that are historically, will get like state to themselves, and you want a little bit of recruiting battle, a little bit of a, what's great about America, competition. So you want, even though I know Missouri's in the SEC and way ahead of Missouri State, hey, let winning happen. Boise State was a community college in like 1977, and now look at them. They, they'll take some big time players from big time programs. 5-star Malachi Nelson leaves USC for Boise State. I like this, man. I know that they weren't, a great team last season, but I'm just glad someone's in there in Missouri to challenge Mizzou a little bit long term.
And they have been in the FCS playoffs. They've made playoff appearances recently, and when I went there in 2022, you could kind of tell. They had some transfers from Power 5 schools and G5 schools, so they're used to getting good talent. And I think that Delaware has probably a more of a sure chance to hit the ground running. We saw in Conference USA last year how Jacksonville State had a great year and Sam Houston didn't, hit the ground running in their first year of Conference USA. It doesn't mean that Missouri State can't do it, but it's going to be a little bit, I think, of a more of a transition for them getting up to speed in Conference USA. But we're rooting for them. I'm excited for all these opportunities now that Conference USA plays in these weeknight games. So went there in 2022, and honestly, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be back here for 10 years. And now next year they're going to have a weeknight game. It's almost a certainty I'll be there next year. So it's very cool.
Hell yeah. Look, obstructed view alert. It's not much, but a little bit, right?
No, well, even when they reconstruct the stadium in 2014, there's still obstructed view alerts. So I think would you say if college football playoff listened to you, then you would tell them exactly how to seed teams and where to have playoff games? They need to come to me when they build these stadiums about how to vet obstructed views, because this should not happen. And even though it's, a slight one, it's still a guy who had a seat and came for a big game and he can't see the end zone because there's a concrete wall in his face, and that's unacceptable. So
we got to get business cards where you're saying like stadium detective, you know what I mean? Stadium detective.
Oh.
Let's see.
Yeah. Another way for people to look at me like I'm unserious. Let's do it. So there's the obstruction right there. So you're cutting off about 25, 30 yards, which that's an obstructed view that qualifies.
Look, I another school in Missouri. Love it's outdoors. I've always thought St. Louis, like one of the things I would like to see in college football is like the reemergence of, I know this is kind of off the beaten path, but like cities, like,
yep.
Yeah. And this is Springfield, but I've always saying like St. Louis, why do they not have a fucking really good football team within St. Louis or Chicago or, like there's just a lot of cities you could say that for.
I agree.
But I am very excited about, them jumping up, and we'll see how they go. Look at this. This is a nice stadium, man. I think it's kind of underrated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's underrated. And we did our best FCS invitational tournament, and this got ranked, I think, in in the top 25 or 30 of the FCS. In September, you can time out these weeknight games with daylight savings. So you're still going to, you get the sunset shot, which looks really nice. And, there is Lindenwood, which is not too far away in the FCS, but now they're jumping up and it may not be as much of a matchup. But I think that these Conference USA teams, now that we have Power 5 teams, Power 4 teams not wanting to do road games at G5s and being very particular, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Conference USA to play money games at Power 5 schools. And, I think that the G5 schools, if they're not going to get P5s to come in, we need to have big time G5 home and homes like Boise State and App State. So Missouri State jumps up, and hopefully they can create some new rivalries at the FBS level.
Yeah. And I'll second that. Like Liberty and App State are playing this year, and I can't wait for that fucking game. Yeah, and I think with the 12 team playoff, like I don't even think American citizens have realized yet how amazing this is going to be. I only think it's like the hardcore people like me and you that cover the sport. I'm like, whoa, this is going to be fascinating. That Liberty App State game before, like a New Year's Six was on the line, but I don't even think like your lay fan knows what a New Year's Six is. Like, oh, New Year's Six bid. What the fuck's that mean? Right. Well, now you tell them like, hey, if they win this could be vital in them making the playoff. I think it completely changed the narrative and the excitement level. So,
and I think if you just say it flat out, if Liberty doesn't beat App State and they go undefeated in Conference USA, they're not getting the bid. They're not getting it. So that's how serious some of these matchups are.
Hell yeah, man. Next up, we jump over to Conway, Arkansas, Central Arkansas. 85 years old, seats 10,000, and this one's famous, folks. If you don't know, you might have caught it randomly on your TV. For a couple of years, they were playing the week 0 games.
Yep.
It kind of bums me out that they're not anymore. Like I specifically would like Central Arkansas to do that, but this stadium, first off, okay, you have me already. You have my attention, like this right here. And then what in the hell is this? This is fantastic, but also like, it's not my cup of tea to have purple and gray, but I also understand why they did it. And I do think it is a unique thing. Like I like Eastern Michigan's. That's my favorite because I feel like you're watching a game in 1950, but this is still cool. I know some people truly hate it. I don't truly hate it. To me, it's an outdoor stadium. Make the turf whatever color you want. Your thoughts and tell me about your travels to Conway.
Yeah, so this stadium is extremely polarizing because it takes the Red Inferno or the Boise Blue Turf or the Coastal Surf Turf. It takes it to another level. And, I've heard people say, oh, I can't watch a game on there because it causes seizures when I watch it on TV. And other people, they think it's incredible. So I will tell you that, they put it in, they call it the Stripes, and they put the Stripes in 2011. And that game, the opener against Henderson State, 2011, they set the record. The stadium only holds 10,000. They got 12,755. So you could see the metal fence set up right there. There's a ton of standing room area there. But this is, you mentioned the week 0 game. I saw them in 2022. It was on the FCS, the Thursday night of week 1. So, if I'm not going to go to a big time FBS game on a Thursday opener, I need to do something that, in my mind is going to attract eyeballs to the game that I'm going to. So this was the one I went to in 2022. This year, haven't announced, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to Eastern Washington for the Thursday opener and that red turf. So try to showcase different things. But, the stadium started out with only 3,000 seats back in 1939. They completely, you mentioned the first photo where you said you were sold on the back of it. Well, that was a whole redone west side of the stadium in 1998. They put all the football facilities in there, and now the stadium has grown to 10,000 seats. So this is one where you got to go and check it out yourself. I went there in 2022. These photos are awesome. Now, whether you like the way they did the field or not, that's up for, individual judgment. But that scene is completely unique in college football. The only place you can find it is Conway, Arkansas. and you got to have respect for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I dig it. I dig it in that regard, man. Yeah. And they had a really good program for a little bit there. Now I know they're still solid, but they were really good 5-6 years ago. I feel like,
maybe they were making playoffs. Yeah. They made playoff bursts and, they went, I know they played a game at NDSU, and a buddy of mine, he was a long snapper for them. I know that Central Arkansas played at Aloha Stadium a few years ago. So they have done some things. And, again, this is one where you look at where they're positioned in the FCS, and they're in a conference where you can go and you can win and you can get that automatic berth and maybe get a home playoff game. And I think this would be a really fun place to watch a FCS home playoff game. Agreed.
Next we go to the Citadel Johnson Haygood Stadium, Charleston, South Carolina. First off, if you haven't been to Charleston, South Carolina, yeah, I mean, that's a great city to go enjoy. Unless you're sober. If you're sober, it's not the greatest city for you. But the Charleston, South Carolina, incredibly cool city. And then you have the Citadel there. And I've always wondered why the Charleston Cougars don't have a program. I think that one's a no-brainer. But I love the Citadel. Stump Mitchell, famous St. Louis Cardinals running back, is always the one that jumps out to me. I actually watched the game. Citadel and VMI have a historic rivalry, and here in the studio, I threw on a game, I think from '84 on TBS. It's a great game, fun game, but 76 years old is this stadium. Stadium seats 11,500, and I dig this place. When you show me that, okay, from the start, I'm in.
Yeah,
this is a fucking castle. This is like Mario Brothers. You know what I mean? You're going to go in there and fucking kill King Koopa, right? You're going to go in there. You know what I mean? Like, this is perfect. This is what I'm talking about. You don't see this shit in the NFL. That is perfect. Tell me about look at this stadium. Now.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I'm saying the bleachers aren't as big on the other side. Maybe we can improve that, but man, I can tell you this, I dig it.
Yeah. And, so part of the criteria for this show was, okay, which ones are notable and unique? And so we just did the Stripes, and now we're doing the Citadel. And with that, that end zone facility, it looks like exactly like Storm the Castle. You're not going to find that anywhere else in college football. The scoreboard they have is like this 5-screen thing that it all blends together when they get the right graphics. And this may be one of the best ones I've seen at a college football stadium. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Marshall, FCS Nation Radio,
hell yeah,
grad of the Citadel. And this game in 2022, I met him at a game at his alma mater and got the whole royal treatment down there. So it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. This stadium, Johnson Haygood, is a brigadier general from the class of 1847. So we're talking about, a long, long time ago. And, the stadium is hosted the FCS championship in 1983 and 1984. And I know that the contract for Frisco is running out, and they've been talking about other places possibly jumping in the mix. This place is one that should be not just for the stadium, but all the reasons you're talking about Charleston. And the one thing you're mentioning about the roadside bleachers. So this stadium originally had 22,000 seats, is down to 11. Those east stands got demolished in 2016 due to lead paint needing remediation. And so they want to replace them. And now the funding is not there, but that's the reason there are no sizable bleachers on the east side.
Wait, we took those away? That was just supposed to be fun.
Well, fun for us, but those sticklers for like disease and stuff, they got in the way of our fun. But I really think go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I just love like half the crowd's huffing paint in the parking lot, but it's okay. What were you gonna say?
They came in feverish about the game, maybe, but yeah. So I think that there are fundraising efforts in place to try to get that going, but I know that the I think it's in Frisco for one more year, maybe two. And there's been some other places that have been mentioned. I think that this place would be a great, maybe you have it on a round robin, and this could be one of it used to be in Chattanooga at Finley Stadium. This one, I think, would be a good location for the town and for the stadium.
Agreed. And obviously Charleston doesn't need to sell itself.
No.
I love this program, and I want this program. I remember they won at South Carolina under Mike Houston, who's now my East Carolina Pirates head coach. And college football is better when the Citadel is good, in my opinion. FCS college football is better when the Citadel is rolling. So would love to see it back going. They gave Virginia Tech a tough game a couple years ago in Lane.
I want to say they beat Georgia Tech. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they did. They did. Yeah. That was beautiful because Jeff Collins had talked shit about the triple option, and exactly. And then they came there and beat them running the triple, which is so great.
And there's a famous game against Alabama where they had them like for the first half very competitive too in there. So yeah, they had a distinct style and nobody wanted to see it. And, when you go down there, they have, first of all, they think this is a really good stadium. Like the fans in Charleston really like the stadium, and there's good reason for that. And then, if you can they went 0 for last year. They didn't win a game. And so they have Coach Drayton there, and there's a lot of pride to get this program back to first respectability. And then, SoCon there's been times where people can jump up and maybe they can in a year or two make a jump up and be back in the thick of things. But, you can see these scenes right here. Like that's what's fun about college football. We have a few schools that have this kind of setup where you can see these scenes with, military and all of that. And it's very special.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Look at that scoreboard that you're talking about. Yeah, this is a cool stadium, dude. It's very unique, very cool, and I got to get down there. I got to get down there soon.
Look how close that scoreboard is to the end zone.
Yeah,
I mean, look at it right there, and you got the American flag waving, and so this is. And I like the color too. I don't know what the official color of Citadel, but that baby blue. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I had fun in 2022, and I would love to go back.
Hell yeah, man. Folks, whoa. I wanted to get that shot in, and then look at this. It's a nice stadium, man. It's a really nice stadium, and then look at that first down.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Have you ever seen so these are 5 individual distinct scoreboards, but the middle one is usually the replay, and then the outside ones they got the first down stats and the box score and the roster numbers. But there are certain points where all the graphics go together, and it's really cool and really unique. And I mean, I haven't seen an FBS school have something like that. So it's a cool thing to have on the opposite end zone there for the fortress type structure that we saw in the beginning.
Yeah, agreed. And that is fantastic. First off, their logos. If you just are searching for logos, I make these slides and you load up the Citadel's logos. They don't miss. All right. Like all their logos are fire. And that statue with the bulldog, I mean, flawless to me. That's one of the more underrated ones too. I think nationally, as far as like, I know people, I don't think they rank the statues, at least that I know of. But this is one of the better ones by doing this show that I look at and I go, that is awesome.
I agree.
Folks, if you are listening to this on the audio side, make sure you check out part 2. If you're on YouTube watching this, just stay put because we're going to jump into the second half of this right now on the Stadium Heads podcast. All right, we are back on the Stadium Heads as we're just got done talking about the Citadel. Can't wait. I want their winning ways to come back down to Charleston, South Carolina. Next, we go to Lehigh. Shot stacking the money green. My pal from Sports Gambling Podcast, big Lehigh guy. Wow. Goodman Stadium. Yeah, Goodman Stadium, Township, Pennsylvania. I know Bethlehem is where he's from, so that's what I was confused when I pulled up on Wikipedia. It said Township. He told me he's from Bethlehem. It's in Bethlehem, and he told me a great story about his dad, perhaps vomiting all over the the field there at a concert back in the 60s or 70s. Great. But or maybe it was the 80s. I don't remember. But 36 years old, seats 16,000, and let me tell you, we keep like if you come to SGPN Studios in Los Angeles on a Saturday, normally, every once in a while they'll get pushed off because of how many good games are on. But most of the time, we'll have a TV dedicated to watching the Lehigh. Historically, they're like one of the original college football teams way back in the day. So this is fucking incredible. I need to go to a game here because look at that. What are we in the Poconos? What is this? He didn't tell me about this. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you get certain shots, but this is. Tell me about your travels here. I know you didn't go for a game. I threw a shot from the game in this mix, but
yeah, this
place is awesome. I know historically, like I said, I think they're like, if you look at like the first 20 college football games, I think Lehigh played one of them. So they've been playing for a long fucking time. Tell me about your travels here.
Yeah. So first of all, this is located in, it says Saucon Valley. And it's obviously the campus is surrounded by wooded hills. They say it's South Mountain, but the reason that this is in this episode is because of these pictures. I'm a stadium nerd, and even before, I started doing FCS travel, I knew about this place. And so I made a couple stops there. These photos are from 2022, and you're right. So the most played rivalry in college football history is Lafayette and Lehigh. They've played 159 times, and that's more than any Ivy League combination out there. And last year they played it at Goodman, so that was 159. This year 160 will be at Lafayette. And this stadium, it's only built in 1988. It replaced Taylor Stadium, which was their on-campus stadium, closer, like more centralized on the campus from 1914 to 1987. And there was a real estate developer named Murray Goodman who donated 550 acres in this spot to be able to build a new stadium. So there's trade-offs. What I read about from Taylor Stadium is because it was so centrally located, they had more fans. There was more of an environment, but there was no parking, and they ended up building a business school in this place. Well, this one is, the field is a little bit further from the bleachers. The stadium is a little bit further from campus. But when you're talking about, I didn't know about Taylor Stadium. I never went. It's 1987. But when you look at these photos, how do you not think automatically I want to go see a game there? And, from the grass being cut like that to the green hills in the background to knowing this is the the school that has played in the rivalry that's the longest existing in all of college football, like just checkbox. I need to get there myself, and I have a game planned week 4 at noon. I think they play Princeton, and that one is on my schedule right now. So if things hold, I'm going to be checking this off my bucket list here in a few weeks.
Dude, it's perfect. This is a great stadium. Look at this fucking stadium. It's a great fucking stadium.
And, we talked about when we did the Ivy League, how a lot of the history of the Ivies, they're not winning as much. And, the Northeast is kind of, not as prestigious as it once was. And we think about this stuff. But when you rattle off some of these stadiums, I know Holy Cross Fitton Field is like 1908 it was built. And you got Lehigh with Goodman Stadium. And I went to New Hampshire, and their Wildcat Stadium was nice. And so there's still a lot of great spots up in the Northeast, even though we're not seeing them at, ESPN primetime on Saturday night. Like, you look at this environment, and this is one that you would be willing to dedicate an entire college football Saturday to come watch a game here. And like I said, I'm excited to see it. And I'm also, as we talked about in the beginning, like, educate people. So I know about this place, and a lot of other people know about it, but some don't. And when you see these pictures, maybe it'll inspire people to go check it out themselves.
Yeah. I mean, and what do we got here with this goalpost over here on the left-hand side?
That's a good ass question right there. So there's a goalpost in the parking lot, and
I was assuming it was their old field.
I guess, but there's also a parking lot there, so maybe it was the old field. But this is not Taylor Stadium because it's a different place. But maybe there was a practice facility or practice field out there, and then they left the goalpost and put a parking lot there. But you know, if you're that you got picked to try to kick a field goal at halftime to win, Dr. Pepper for a year, go out and practice in the parking lot before.
That's
for that.
Rob brings up a great point. Fantastic tailgate spot too. You could say, dude, I tell you, especially like you could watch the game and say, I can make a kick better than that guy. Oh yeah, prove it. Oh yeah, before we go home, I'll kick a 20-yarder.
And I got it on video. Watch, I did it earlier. Yeah. So no, this you never knew you needed this until you saw this picture. So
youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, folks. Incredible stuff here. Look at that. This is a shot from a real game. And this stadium's incredible, man. This is a great fucking stadium, man.
I agree. And it's a very rural location, and it leans into that FCS field. It just feels like an FCS town. And, I'm going to see them play Princeton, and I don't know what kind of crowd it's going to be early in the season. Your season is not shot. I know that Lafayette won the Patriot League last year and they made the playoffs. So, Lehigh historically has been a good team. This is the kind of scene that I want. So all the photos you saw that I took, I would love for this crowd to be there and have the opportunity to do that, because it would make for great pictures.
Oh yeah. Folks, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. If you go 8-0, you can win 325 times your entry, or play the fantasy football the right way with Best Ball. Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes, and Underdog just launched their season-long college football projections. Yes, look, higher and lower for your favorite college football players. I don't know another place that's doing this. This is a fantastic thing here. And you could take the higher, like I'll do it right now. Let me place one right now. Let's have some fun right here. I am bullish on, let's go. Let me find one that I like. I will take, look, Notre Dame just lost their starting left tackle. So I will take the lower on Riley Leonard, 2,550 and a half passing yards for the season. Because he's coming off an injury. The offensive line just got dinged up. They had a couple of guys drafted in the NFL. And then I will take the higher on, what do we got? There's a lot that I like, but I'm going to take LaQuint Allen, the Syracuse running back, higher than 875 and a half yards. Let's throw in, look, I'll even add a third. Hang on. Let's add a third. Let's take Zachariah Branch, the receiver for USC, higher than 650 receiving yards. Let's throw in $30 on that. I'm going to put in $30 right now. And that will win you 180 if all three hit. Boom, it is placed. That is what I'm talking about. Let's go. That's why you got to check out. They offer stuff that really you can't find elsewhere. You really can't. You can't find it elsewhere. And Underdog Fantasy continues to do this. I mean, they have the Underdog Best Ball for college football. I had never heard of college football Best Ball. I've been wanting it to happen for a long time. We just dropped an episode drafting on Underdog Fantasy, our Best Ball draft. So check out that. You can now use specials and boost on all flex entries. So sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right, we are back. Shout out to Rob Donaldson, who says, listening to this podcast has fueled my passion to go to more and more stadiums. Really great stuff, guys. Well, thank you, man. And that's what we had in mind when doing it was, and we've gotten comments on the YouTube channel after saying, this has inspired me to go to this game or that game. And that's why college football is like, it's first off, it's older than the MLB. A lot of people just assume the MLB is Major League Baseball is older. No, college football is as American as it gets. It's one of the original sports America provided. So get out to a game. It doesn't matter what it is to me. Like, if sometimes I feel like we've become such a corporate society, you think, oh, I got to go to the national championship game or some big time. Like, no, you have it within you, around you. It might not be on the Division I level or the FBS level, but it's there. Go check it out. Support it. I got to get to Lehigh Stadium. This photo is incredible, man. I know it's not yours, but I'm saying it makes me just want to go.
Yeah, no, this is high on the bucket list, and I want to echo your sentiments about traveling to places. And the good thing about college football is there's something that will fit you. If you love Power 4 football and you love 100,000 seat stadiums and you want to see Goliath versus Goliath, you can go to that. If you want affordable prices and good atmosphere and good stadiums and good talent, and it's not like going to cost you an arm and a leg, there's G5 football. If you want to see places like Goodman Stadium or the Ivy Leagues or the SWAC or the Big Sky and some of these historic places in towns and cities that you may not rattle off immediately, go check out FCS. And there's bucket lists in D2, and so there's over 800 college football programs. And for me, I haven't watched college football at home since 2016, and I used to love it, right? But now I'm just kind of addicted to going to these stadiums and getting that feel. And when you go watch a game and you don't have an announcer telling you over and over what you're seeing when you already know, and you can take in the game at your own leisure, in my opinion, there's nothing better.
Fair. I agree. Next, we are going to one that Robert Martin says he's going to a game there this year. And Rob Donaldson says he's already been there. North Dakota State's Fargo Dome, Fargo, North Dakota, 32 years old, seats 18,700. It's a dome. So, I haven't been, but I can't help but look back at South Dakota State's playoff game last year and think, whoa, what could have been, if it was North Dakota State. But, tell me about your travels here, man. Obviously, they're a fucking blue blood in the FCS, and this is a team like, I know Rob was talking about this in the chat. He thinks they should go independent in the FBS, and I agree.
So, well, it's always the argument is that recruiting is difficult, and if they're not like right now, North Dakota State and South Dakota State are always ranked 1 and 2. Well, if you go down to or if you go up to FBS, you're not going to be in the top 25. And then how are you going to recruit in the same way? So, Montana's in the same boat. We talked about Snow Belt Conference a while back. Maybe that would be the move, but I think that they like where they're at. And, I know that domes are not your jam, but as far as like one of the most iconic in all of college football, the response that people have at the Kibbe Dome. Well, the Fargo Dome is like the Kibbe Dome, except there's been a ton of winning for a long extended period of time. They call it the Thunderdome, and they've had readings of 115 decibels where they played Furman in the 2015 playoffs. And, they used to play outside. They played at Dakota Field from 1910 to 1992. That field still exists. It's a women's soccer stadium now. And they've had this place. And if you're an FCS football fan and you want to see the significant venues in the FCS, you have to stop and check out the Fargo Dome. Like, it's a must. You have to. Top 5 like bucket list destinations, whether you're a Dome fan or not.
Now, was this during COVID?
Yes. So
okay.
This was 2021 versus Youngstown State in the spring of COVID. Yes.
I was wondering because I was like, I know they pack a better crowd than this. What I mean? You see the separation there.
Yeah. My other opportunity was 2022. That was the same weekend. They had a Friday night game, and then South Dakota State had a Saturday game. And the South Dakota State game was the coldest sporting event in the history of South Dakota. And I got snowed out. They closed the freeway, and I could not get to North Dakota State. So, that was going to be my opportunity to watch a semifinal game. That was incarnate word. That was after they beat Sac State 66-63, like everything lined up. And then I got snowed out. So huge disappointment, because these are the only photos that I have in the Fargo Dome, which is a COVID crowd. So I, along with other people, I need to go back and do the real thing myself.
Yeah, Rob was at that Furman game. This is incredible here. I mean, talk about the history of the team and how many championships. This is great. Carson Wentz, Easton Stick. I mean, they've turned into quarterback Trey Lance. They have a big game at Colorado week 1, but hey, they've won at Iowa. They've won at Kansas State. And this is all in the past like 15 years. They've won at Minnesota, I think twice. They have earned it. So yeah.
What was Dion's comments? He was mad at the AD for putting this game on the schedule, right?
Yeah, he was.
It's the same thing with South Dakota State playing at Oklahoma State week 1. But yeah, no, they have and that's so for everybody that wants them to jump up. Like, look at that trophy room. Now, whether you say that, okay, you've proved yourself in the FCS and jump up, if you don't think that you're going to be an FBS college football playoff champion and you can make good money and you can be a championship contender every year, and you're in a place that's not exactly a destination for recruits, what do you do? And to this point, there's been no offer that has made it so, because people talk about, oh, they should join the new, now that the Pac-12 is dissolved, they should do a merger and go there. But, Idaho came down from FBS because the Kibbe Dome only holds 16,000. They can't compete with everybody else. The Fargo Dome holds 18,700. And, there's been discussions to expand the Fargo Dome since 2011. And it would take major modifications to get it done, structural changes. And there was actually a special ballot last year in December voting on a $140 million renovation that would add a convention center, and it would also remove Albrecht Boulevard, which is a street that borders the dome, and they were going to fund 30 million of the 140, and we're asking for 110, and it got voted down. They got 52%, which is the majority, but they needed 60 to pass. So there are hurdles, not just, hey, go jump up. I mean, if you only have a stadium that's 18,000 seats in North Dakota, it's going to be hard to compete with, let's say you join the Big 12 or whatever. How are you going to compete with those other people that got 70,000 seat stadiums? So I hear what they say, but that's the argument on the other side.
Well, I'm on board with the renovations if you can cut the roof off, but you know me.
You heard me say major structural changes, right? That's a major one right there.
Yeah, I was like, oh, now you have my attention. Yeah, look, I mean, and where is this like for media after the game?
No, so you can go and visit the dome on non-game days. And so I just walked into the meeting room. I walked into the locker, and this was the meeting room. And there was another place where they had like the training schedule for the day, like that up. So I don't know if you can do it all the time, but I just walked in and kind of navigated wherever I wanted.
The Dakota Marker rivalry is one of the best in all of college football. So I definitely dig this. And their logo and uniforms are fucking perfect. Like I like what they're about. It's just still
they have a brand.
Yeah.
Everybody knows them.
Now let's talk about their rivals, who have won they haven't lost a game in like 2 years. South Dakota State, Dana J. Dykehouse Stadium, Brookings, South Dakota, and I feel like, I got this about the Kibbe Dome. I mentioned my experience of falling in love with Washington State, right? I fell in love with Washington State because of a snow game that I got on my TV in Washington, D.C. And I got pushback saying I was at that game. It was the coldest game ever. And I go, I understand that, right? Like someone had said that. And meaning, I think he had it like with regret of how cold it was, or at least that's the way I took it. And I go, but I remember it. You know what I mean? I remember it.
Yep.
My point is that I wouldn't remember I've watched a shit ton of college football my whole life. I highly doubt I would remember if that game at Pullman Stadium was put in a dome. I don't think I would have remembered it. And it has this lasting image to me on what I love about it. Well, based on your photos here, now I watched this game. Now this was a blowout, so I can't compare it to that exact game. And I also wasn't, a 8-year-old or 9-year-old kid, but this stadium, 19,000, it's 8 years old, seats 19,340. First off, I'm going to bring up a lot of points that I like about. First off, the Jackrabbit name, it's hard to beat that. And then, love the fact it's outdoor. This photo is incredible. You got the band. I love a checkered end zone, right? I love no dome. 2, I'm Team Jackrabbit all day with this type of field. This is college football to me. Like I said, I'm not trying to shit on North Dakota State here, but I'm just saying this is what I gravitate to. I look at this and I go, oh my God, get me there. You know what I mean? Tell me about your travels here. Cause it wasn't one of the coldest games in the state's history or something.
Yeah. So I've gone to three FCS semifinal games. Spring 2021, they beat Delaware. Last year they played UAlbany and they won. And then these snow photos are from 2022 semifinals versus Montana State. And at kickoff, it was 9 degrees at kickoff. It was -7 degree wind chill, and that's at kickoff. So, once the sun went down, it got really cold. And, my hands, I kept taking my hands out of my gloves to use my phone to take photos because I didn't have one of those gloves where you can keep it on. And the bones in my hands hurt for 3 days after this game. But that being said, this ranks up top 5 most fun college football games that I've ever been to. And it's for all the reasons that you're talking about. All the scenarios that we've said about playing on campus in cold weather in the playoffs in December. This is it. This is it on the smaller scale compared to what it would be like at Michigan or Penn State. But this is it right here. And this is an intimidating environment. And the fans in Brookings, shout out to those guys. They call it the book club. That's the tailgating thing. During COVID, you couldn't tailgate. So you said you're going to the book club, which was code for tailgating. But when you have North Dakota State, South Dakota, and North Dakota all playing in domes, and you play in this beautiful outdoor stadium, embracing the elements, and oh, by the way, that also coincides with you winning 29 games in a row and 2 national championships and being the juggernaut of FCS football, maybe there is something to outside football.
Buddy, everything is of a fan. Like, break it down to the core for me, at least. I'm 41 years old. I would die for an opportunity. Like, I would pay $10,000 to go back. Well, I grew up in the Northeast where if it rained or snowed, the first thing you did was call your buddies to play football, right? No shoulder pads, no helmets. You just went out there and played. I mean, obviously we it's even better when you're when you're in an actual high school game and that stuff happens, but that's just what you did. That was our society. That was my neighborhood. That happened. Oh shit. There was something about the snow specifically, but the rain also, but the snow more so, that brings the child in you out. And there's a golden feeling within me. Even when, I was in Park City, Utah a couple of years ago, and I'm there with my wife and it's snowing there. And I'm just like, God, I feel it within me to this day. I couldn't go play a game of tackle football with my buddies. You know what I mean? But it's there. It's still within me. It's still there. Like I went outside into the snow, let the snowflakes hit me. And it's just, we're forgetting that, I think, in these days. Like football's meant to be played in that. It's and in the elements, in outdoor weather. And that's part of the fun of when that happens. That's supposed to happen. You're supposed to feel that. We saw that Bears game, Chicago Bears game at Soldier Field in the rain, where they the quarterback from Justin Fields runs and does the swan dive, and his whole teammates are joining him. It's supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be part of the fun. We need not forget that. And I when I see a game like this, I'll tell you this, man. If I didn't follow college football, if I was watching whatever, I would seek this. I would seek this. Honestly, like me and my brothers, when I didn't know anything about South Dakota State football or whatever, like Marshall stands out to me in my mind because I would seek them out because I remember games in the snow. Same with Washington State. Anytime there's a snow game, we go to watch that. When you had one TV back in the day, when you only had one TV, I'd get a phone call from a friend, 20 houses down. Hey, turn it on ESPN2. Air Force games in the snow. Oh my God, really? Let's go. Let's put it on. I can't hammer that enough. I love this though, and I want to get to the stadium because they have the checkered end zone too. That Robert's talking about in the chat as well. Everything about it is perfect.
Yeah, and I echo everything you're saying, and I think I had a credential for this game, and I went into the press box, and you thank people for the credential, and you find out where your spot is. But after that, I never went back in there, and it was cold. Like this is the coldest I've ever been at a football game. But in the same way, when you and I talk offline about old YouTube games we're watching, what do we seek? We're looking for the snow game or the rain game. And I think that fans today are, I'm going to say scared to go in this environment because they don't know what to expect. And I think that if you can get up to get in those bleachers, embrace the elements, and it makes it even better when it's a consequential game like a playoff game. You're going to associate this as a fun place to be, as you said, to seek out in this environment. Like last year I went to Central Michigan during Maction on Halloween, and it snowed like hell. And you saw the photos that we did during the Maction episode. That was awesome. I've tailored my 2024 schedule where the last week of Maction, I'm going to be at Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and Akron. I'm expecting one of those to be a snow game in the same way. And the FCS even plays 3 or 4 weeks after that when they do these home playoff games. So, they invested in this place, and they purposely did it outdoors because this stadium is built on the same grounds as their old stadium, Coughlin Alumni Stadium. 2015, it was in a state of disrepair. They knocked it down. They put the money out. They built a beautiful outdoor stadium. And in that, they got the return on their investment. They're 53-7 at home in the history of the stadium since 2016, 14-1 in the playoffs, and won 2 back-to-back national championships. And now they have not only a team that nobody wants to go play, but they have an environment that people are scared of. And that's the ultimate home field advantage right there.
100%, man. Know your advantage. That is your advantage. That is your advantage. Is you're located in South Dakota, right? And I don't know. It just makes me think about like, what's that?
Albany got killed last year, and they play in the cold in New York, but it was nothing like that,
It's not cold like that. Yeah, where the wind is coming in like that. It's like the Fog Bowl. If Soldier Field was a dome, we wouldn't have had the Fog Bowl. Like, I don't care if I'll be on my deathbed. I'll have, whatever. You could bring up the Fog Bowl and I'll be like, oh man, that game was incredible. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, like, this is part of, if you were at that game, you remember that your whole life. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in it, like I went to the LSU UCF game there at the Toaster Oven in Phoenix, right? Scottsdale, whatever it is, right? Glendale. My point is I don't remember because the game was boring. But that's what I'm saying. I don't. It's not a lasting thing in my. I went to Ford Field for a Lions game. Couldn't tell you what happened. Kind of boring. That shit really matters to me. Like I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I'm just saying. Like I feel like that is always we've lost sight of that, and it needs to come back. I love the Dyke House.
And I will tell you this, okay, I went to 90 college football games last year. The year before I went to 70. The year before I went to 81. Do the numbers, since 2017, I've been to over 300 college football games. This is in my top 5 experiences. Going to this game in this weather and being, a California kid going out there, limited experience in the snow. And you could see there was other photos that you had where there's just snow piles up by the side and, the right there. I mean, look at that, right? Look at this is a football field. This is not like, you're going to Tahoe and you're going to do the slopes. Like this is where and this photo right here, this is like one of my favorite FCS shots of the night right there. It's like, it looks Arctic, and this is right at opening kickoff, and you got the American flag waving, and you can't tell if it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night. And it just, so again, like, you got a guy going to a lot of college football games, and top 5, a FCS game in Brookings, South Dakota. How does that happen? Because you want to immerse yourselves in the elements like a real football fan would want to.
Hell yeah, buddy. I mean, they don't call the Ice Bowl the Ice Bowl. We know the Ice Bowl. I could go on and on. I could give a fucking lecture. All right. I could do so you can hire me, South Dakota State. I can give a lecture on how great this was. Anyway, this game was phenomenal. I watched it on TV too. And it was great. I bet you if I look back, I have like 5 text messages from friends being like, "Are you watching this game? This game is phenomenal." Love the snow here. And, yeah, we have a lot of shots of the stadium. Look at that. Look at the backdrop there. It's beautiful, man.
This makes the mind wander, in just a simple way. When you see a photo of something, whether it's, a mountain or a lake or whatever, you're like, oh man, you want to see this. And so now I'm trying to build in some schedule flexibility where if we could somehow get a weather report knowing that in a week it's going to be, maybe we can make it there. And, this photo right here this is how they do it in South Dakota. So this is a tailgate photo, but it's inside a giant tent. They got it all enclosed, so you don't get that wind hitting. Like, these are pros. And, I'm fortunate to have been up there 3 times, and South Dakota State fans are great. They've been in Frisco the last couple of years, so I got to meet them. This is right here in the COVID year where we had to tailgate off campus at a park, and that's why they called it the book club, right? Hey, we're not going to tailgate, we're doing the book club. And then you got, and they're wearing the bibs with the yellow and blue overalls. And
next time you go, you got to get me one of those. I'm gonna Venmo you money to get me one of these overalls.
Yeah, and they have another thing called Hobo Day, which is it's something, I don't know the exact history, but it's where people got off trains and they were trying to establish a life in South Dakota, and they greeted them, and now every year they dress up as hobos for that. And where you're not going to get that at Texas, where they got all these PC people, right? You can't even do horns down. But up there, you have a holiday where you're supposed to dress up as a hobo. So, but yeah, no, it's a cool. And here's another one, Ears Up. You talked about how cool the Jackrabbit name is. Well, that's a pretty fire name for a beer right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, every university should be having their own beer, but man, the Jackrabbit name might be the best in all of college football, in my opinion. Like, you throw it up there with, there's some other cool names, but the Jackrabbits, what a fucking name. I mean, the stadium's fire, man. I like it a lot. This press box, let's talk about that. Fire.
Yeah. I mean, that lighting right there. So it reminds me of Utah State with the same kind of glow. And, I talk about, there's a night stadium or a day stadium. This is both. And again, I want to say this is somewhere around like December 14th, outdoor on a Friday night in Brookings, South Dakota. And that's a pretty good crowd, and they just did it right. So like I said, they knocked down Coughlin Alumni Stadium, which was their home from 1962 to 2015. If you go back and look at photos, you can see why they knocked it down. We're not necessarily in favor of that, but they made the move. They built a great stadium, and they got ROI on their investment very quickly. And now they have top 10 FCS stadium and #1 program. And they got all their guys coming back, with Mark Gronowski going for a 3rd straight national championship. And, people are thinking they could go into Oklahoma State and beat them. So
I'm one of them.
Yeah. This is like right now, this is the center of the FCS world, is this stadium right here.
Yeah. Shout out to LFG. Great players got screwed though as a result in the Fog Bowl. I would disagree and say, that's should have won your division. I mean, that's part of what I mean of leaning into your advantage. The Bears' advantage Now, who knows if they would have won on a neutral or not? They won their division that year, and that's why they hosted, or they had the better record and they hosted. I can't recall off the top of my head, but that's your advantage. That's why you play to it. That's the whole point of the regular season, right? And that's why South Dakota State has that advantage. Talent, whatever. The Giants were not as talented as the Patriots. Any game you could say that. So I would push back on that. But that's why you play the season is. If you know you're South Dakota State, you go, we're going to play an outdoor stadium because guess what? When the FCS playoffs come, when Furman has to come to town, or when Delaware has to come to town, or Albany, or whoever, San Diego, whoever, that's your advantage. You have to lean into that. And to me, if you're not doing that, you're failing. And obviously the other parts, you remember it forever. So, and on any given day, the less talented team wins all the time. You know what I mean? Whether it's perfect weather, whether it's in a dome, it happens all the time. So I won't base it specifically off of the fog. I don't know. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah. Well, I know the Fog Bowl was not fogged for 4 quarters. And I also know that, the Chicago Bears are not preparing in the fog for that, so, but yeah, it's, this why when you look at the Montanas, they're playing outdoors and the Idahos are playing indoors, and they have logic for both. And then again, there's 4 Dakotas and 3 of them are playing indoors and 1 is playing outdoors. And so, there are plenty of times where South Dakota State went into the Fargo Dome and got smoked. That's the way it works. But if you're going to lean into your identity, you got to do it. And some people are choosing the outdoors, and we think, and I think, let's say a percentage of college football fans, you would rather play in a hostile environment and not have to deal with weather. And if you play outdoors, you got the hostile environment and possibly the weather. So I think it's an advantage playing outdoors.
I do too.
For the home team.
Is this first off, this guy's sweater is incredible, but I would agree with everything you just said, but
shout out to Chad right here. He's part of the fans. They do Jackrabbit Illustrated, and they put on a huge tailgate at Frisco. But when you go up there, like I said, that they take care of you. This guy Chad, he carries around these Jello shots. All like you turn left and there's a Jello shot in your face. And I remember like I drank and I went into the press box and I'm supposed to meet the SID, and I assumed that I was a jerk, like big loudmouth and stuff, and it was as a result of my pregame drinking. So if you're gonna hang out with these guys, hopefully you don't. You got to
pay the price, right?
Hopefully you don't have a professional gig that you got to do. So, but yeah, they will take care of you up there for sure.
This is fantastic though, man, and I love the old school Hawaii hat you're rocking there. Look at that snow.
I tried to think warm and it did not work. Like that was my strategy.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No. I mean, go back 2 photos to the stadium photo with the snow and just the darkness. Like, look at that.
Yeah.
You don't want to play there if you're an opponent. Fuck that.
Perfect. This is absolutely fantastic.
And then after the game, go 2 photos forward, the one you were at. The players all jumped in and did snow angels in there. And
because you're a kid again. This is my point,
yes.
Man. This is what I mean. It's golden within you. We should never run from this. This is why I can't watch the NFL anymore. Is like, this is a huge element of what it is. You're playing a kid's game. You know what I mean? You're playing a kid's game, and that should always be on the table for you there. This is great. Like I said, it reminds me of the Justin Fields situation and when he swan dived on that on Soldier Field. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Folks, before I get to the next school, I want to tell you that the Stadium Heads podcast is brought to you by Rhythm. Football season is here, and the college football and NFL models are now live on Rhythm. Create your own winning betting model, or let Rhythm do the heavy lifting for you. You decide what stats matter most to you, and Rhythm will build a custom model around that. Or just sit back, crack a cold one, and let Rhythm do all the work for you. They'll do all the heavy lifting there. It would do with its predictive model. Rhythm uses AI projections from MIT data scientists and quants. Rhythm already has you covered for NFL Week 1 and college football Week 0. I like the Yellow Jackets plus 13. against Florida State there in Dublin. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, if you don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season, may I recommend Ultimate Contest Weekend? It's a great time to go out. You can hang with my pals, Stacking the Money Green and Real Money Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd to August 24th. Use the promo code SGP15 to save you 15% off your hotel room for sign-up weekend. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th, and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with football with a proxy. Go to proxy.footballcontest.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. August 22nd, Rob Donaldson. August 22nd. Next, we go to Western Carolina, E.J. Whitmire Stadium. Cullowhee, North Carolina. Damn it, I should have worn my Cullowhee shirt that Weehawk sent me. It's 50 years old. It seats 13,742 folks. This place, I haven't been, but I have Google imaged it quite often over the past 2 years. Really, Mike, look at this place. It's paradise. Absolutely fantastic. Tell me about your travels here.
So I've not been there for a game. It is not exactly centrally located, but I made a point last year when I was on the road to stop there. And this was in December, early December, and it was right at sunrise, and it was cold. It was probably like 20 degrees outside. But this stadium, the location is incredible. And I call it Boone Jr. That's what I call it, even though it just reminds me of App State, but it's not like, it doesn't have the publicity of App State, but the surrounding hills, the isolation feeling, this stadium is really, really high on my bucket list for a game as soon as possible.
Yes, and Kerwin Bell is building up this program. Former Florida Gator quarterback, played in the CFL. This program, they were if they had won the final game of the season, they would have made the FCS playoffs last year. They got upset, but Weehawk, shout out to Weehawk. Like I said, he sent me some shirts, but also he lives so close to the stadium. He was texting me earlier today saying that he can hear the band practicing for the games when he sits on his deck.
That's cool.
Dude, he'll tag me. He has like a Great Pyrenees or two, the dog, and he'll tag me because he'll go walk. Like he must live so close that he walks the dog right here, like right within the stadium. And yeah, I'll get tagged throughout the summer, or not really throughout the whole year, with like, hey, look at the stadium right now. And every time I'm like, holy fuck, I gotta get to Cullowhee, North Carolina, up in the mountains. This place, come on, man. I mean, they got a gem. They got to continue to invest in this. This is just fire. This is fire, though. This is a very unique stadium, and I can't wait to go there. You already went there. It wasn't a game, but I mean,
yeah, these are my photos from a visit, and there's a game shot, but so I was hoping that they could make the playoffs and maybe host a playoff game last year, because I would have gone, because it's hard to do a 2-for-1 game with Western Carolina because of its location. And so, the FCS is not playing too many weeknight games, so you're not going to get that. I have been trying to be greedy when it comes to certain schools, like St. Thomas and Minnesota are 1 mile apart. Drake and Iowa State are very close to each other. Incarnate Word and Texas are close to each other. Like there's ones that I'm holding to. Now, Western Carolina is semi-close to Tennessee. It's semi-close to Wofford. But what they've been doing is they play a lot of 2:30 kickoffs. So you can't go to a 2:30 game in Western Carolina and make a night game at Tennessee. It just doesn't work. So for me, when I'm trying to do volume and do 2 games on every Saturday, you need a 12 and a 7. And so this year I'm still going to be putting up numbers, which means I'm going to maximize each Saturday. But I think if I can't make it there this year, then I'm going to start carving out some next year for individual visits. Like, you can't do Maine for 2 for 1. I want to do Hartford, Yale, and there's typically not a night game in November to pair with that. And this would be another one, unless they can make the playoffs this year and do it. So, there's certain ones that bug me that I haven't been to. And, we went through and did selective FCS bangers, and I've been to all of them except 2. Lehigh, as I mentioned, I'm trying to get to in September, and this is the only one. So it irks me, and I'm looking for a spot. And when I can, I want to duplicate the photos that I've taken with hopefully a big crowd down there at EJ Whitmire.
Yeah, I'm going there, dude. I'm going there. It's got I've been tagged in this thing too much. I got to get there, and I know it makes it hard for a 2 for 1, but this place, at the mountains, there's something about the mountains of North Carolina, and it's just underrated. Like whether it's Boone, which I still think these are far away from each other. Boone and Cullowhee, I think, are a decent distance from each other.
Yeah.
But
yep.
Appalachian Trail 101 right here, going through these mountains. Yeah, it's fantastic. I got to get to a game there. And I love what Kerwin Bell's doing. I hope they build. The schedule's really hard for them this year, so I'm not sure that they'll get to the FCS playoffs this year, but I know that the program's in good hands. I think right now with him as the head coach, they're going to end up being good and continuing to build into this, the culture that they have and the fan base and everything. And I plan to get up there for some games. I know me and NC Nick have talked about this. He hasn't been, he lives in North Carolina, and he's saying, "Hey, let's go." I got to get there, man. This is like bucket list. This is tough. Like, what's that?
Go ahead.
No, I was saying like it's top. It's like, it doesn't matter FCS or FBS. This is like top 20 stadiums I want to go to.
Yeah. And I will be there in the next 16 months for a game, whether it's this year or the beginning of next year. And I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe we all can go, but it's a special place, and it's one that I really want to officially check off the list. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Unbelievable. Next up, we go to, and look, I haven't done an FCS show. The FCS College Football Experience, my co-host was having some family issues, so we haven't done a lot of our previews. Luckily we did like a little bit of a preview, for every conference, but it hasn't. I thought we'd have conference previews all through July, but at the same time, my buddies and bosses were saying, "Hey, we got to focus more into the FBS because of the 12-team playoffs." So if you're wondering why the FCS hasn't had that many episodes, it's been a kind of a perfect storm between the 12-team playoff and also between my co-host having some family stuff that he hasn't been able to. But he is a graduate of Youngstown State, and I know he's there in spirit right now of talking about he's not on the mic, but he's there because Stanball Stadium, Youngstown, Ohio. He loves this place. He calls it the ice. He calls it the ice house, like the beer. But I know they call it. There's the ice chest. There's the bunch of different terms for it. Yeah, the ice castle. And how about, let's just talk about the FCS mascots are just way better than the FBS. You got the Penguins, you got the Jackrabbits, you got there's a lot of great mascots there, or great nicknames. Stanball Stadium, 42 years old, seats 20,632 people. I, the watcher, saying that that Penguin looks very evil. I love this here. From the outside, it definitely has a different look to it than most, I would say. And then you get to it, and boom, it's a beautiful stadium, man. Tell me about your travels here.
So I've been there once for a visit and once for a game. And that first shot you showed of the exterior. So they call it the Ice Castle, and it's actually the tallest building in Youngstown. And when they opened the stadium in 1982, it was just that bleacher. So part of it is you got one really steep bleacher, and everybody's overlooking it. And we were talking about Delaware and their FCS playoff history. Well, Youngstown State is one of the blue bloods, with Jim Tressel. I think he won 4 national championships, and the FCS playoffs always seem to have to go through Youngstown to be able to do it. And a really cold place that earned the nickname Ice Castle, and they've been extremely dominant there. They're 186-71-1, which is a 738 win percentage. And then in 1997, they added 3,000 seats on the road side, on the east side of the stadium, a press box in the stadium club. So that's the history of the stadium. I went to a game in 2022. It was a doubleheader. I went to Duquesne at noon, and I went to Youngstown State at 6. It's about a 2-hour drive. And it's a cool place to watch a game. You get to navigate the stadium, and you got the small east side, only 3,000 seats, and then you got this giant 17,000 seats. But it has aura, and you could really feel that Ice Castle vibe. And I haven't been there for a cold game, but those same pictures that we saw with South Dakota State, man, it would be awesome to do a playoff game for Youngstown State.
The Polish Rifle played here, Ron Jaworski. And my favorite is Al Bundy, Ed O'Neill.
Oh,
played defensive tackle for Youngstown State, and actually was on the Steelers for about one of the final cuts. Yeah, one of the final cuts. I've heard Terry Bradshaw talk about that. Say he was pretty good. He was pretty good. That was the Steelers at that point were pretty nasty. But yeah, he played here as well. So I mean, or played at Youngstown State. Love this shot. So you've only been once, you said?
So I've been there once for a visit and once for a game.
Gotcha. Look at this shot, man. It's a beautiful shot.
And this is the photo you get when you got, like I said, they say it's the tallest building in Youngstown. So just imagine climbing up to the tallest building in a small city and then shooting out over, and you get the whole stadium, you get the backdrop. And, this was I want to say this was like a mid-October game. So it's not exactly the cold environment, but sunset, it's a beautiful backdrop, and it made for a great photo.
Fantastic. And they have their own beer. You get, like I said, if you're every school, even BYU, make a fucking chocolate milk or something. I don't know, but they should all be doing this. I don't understand why they're not in today's day and age where the dollar is so important because of conference stability and everything. Love that Youngstown State beer. And what is this I'm seeing in the corner of the end zone? It looks like a barn back there.
I want to say that's the indoor football facility, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah, man, this is fantastic.
That's aura right there. That's like, look at that presence, And so you just imagine that was a great game. They played North Dakota, and it was a really competitive game. But let's think back to the heyday when they were, perennial playoff team playing in the championships. This place seats 20,000. You got 17,000 on the home side. So fill that up with 17,000 Penguin fans, and it combine that with the cold, it probably is a very intimidating place to play.
Yeah. Shout out to LFG, who says this college football stadium content matches or exceeds anything else YouTube has to offer. Appreciate that. And yeah, you're right. I got to get to the ice house or the ice chest, the ice castle, whatever they're calling it. A lot of castle talk on this episode. I like it. Yeah. And there's another shot, man. Look at that. That looks great. Beautiful stadium.
I want to go back there right now.
Exactly, man. Exactly. If you're in the area, folks, look at this. Now they do have a lot of sponsors. They do have a lot of sponsors they're milking there, but still love Stanball Stadium and Beatty Field there. And look at that national finalist, 79, 92, 99, 16, 4-time national champions. Fantastic stuff going on in Youngstown, Ohio, folks. And yeah, that's our show, folks. We didn't power rank these because they're not on the same conference. This is our show. We are the Stadium Heads. Make sure the season's here, folks. And first off, I see 387 people in the chat right now. So please, if you can, hit that like and subscribe button. And this is on a ton of different platforms, but one day it won't be. It'll be on strictly the Stadium Heads platform. So you don't want to miss the bus. All right. Jump on over youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. That's where you're going to want to, like, even if you're watching this on the College Experience feed or the Sports Gambling Podcast Network feed, get on over there, type that in the search engine right now, because like I said, it's not going to be available on all of these long term. It's just, this is to grow and to get people aware of what we're doing here. But give Michael, the season's basically here. It's August 11th. Give Michael a follow at CFB Campus Tour on Twitter, because I'm telling you, there's not a Twitter page out there. That's how I became friends with Michael. His schedule, I have already seen rough drafts of it. It's absolutely insane. I'm just looking so forward to, being able to talk to you people about his travels, and obviously talk to him about it, but to showcase his travels. I think it's very unique, and there's not anyone else in the world doing it like Mike is. So you got to check out Michael. And I, like I said, this show is great. It's a great platform to show that, but also his Twitter platform at CFB Campus Tour. Get on over there, give the man a follow, because things are just about, if you thought, like, a lot of people have enjoyed what we've been doing, but we're just getting started. This is just creating content in the off season. Wait till you see his travels as the season, gets, what are we, 13 days away? 13 fucking days away. Let's go. I'm on Twitter at TheColBD. I also host the College Football Experience podcast. Check that one out. That's on Twitter at TCE on SGPN, and youtube.com/the College Experience for that one, as we're previewing all 134 teams in the land. And check out all of our other stuff. Like I said, the FCS College Football Experience, College Basketball Experience. We had someone tweet us this week saying, are we doing this for college basketball, Michael? And I'm like, damn, he's got, I've seen his travel schedule for football. To think to lace 363 basketball teams inside of that. Now, who knows what the future will hold, but I did enjoy that tweet. Are you doing this for basketball too? But the seasons are played at the same time for a lot of the part. So we can't, but we certainly will. I know Michael was at Cameron Indoor and other stadiums, Notre Dame Stadium, you said you went to today. So I'm sure you'll get some crossover there. But maybe also in the future, we could seek some stuff out and educate you there too on that. Folks, check out all of our stuff. The season's here. All right. And we'll be back next Sunday to talk more. Till next time. This is the Stadium Heads podcast. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.
No cream, no sugar, mocha only. Choke the microphone the way he low can choke a phony, won't he? Told him play a station like a broken Sony. Tenderoni phone, she only come and stroke the pony. That good love deserves her Uncle Anatoni. Rats in the hood bug and he want more raw baloney. Chachi need to watch his bony, skinny Joni. Then it fit the fattener up with minestrone. Been grown, chrome Molly skin tone. While he rock the end zone, tap your toe or chin bone. The choice is yours alone. The game for the throne and to get the game zone. Doom man known as the Don for sure true. And he won't show his face or sponsor your group. He sneak up and throw you for a loop. She picked up, speak up if you want some more soup.
New suits again, who do's cruise again, who's too smooth, who's slews want snooze with him. No surprise, no new news to him. Here's a light bulb, now how many of you screw this in? I do better when it's less team effort. With an old blue sweater, I'm a less clean dresser. Full circle, back to the drawing board. Mike by the mirror, I'm the best I ever saw record. Smoking doom, get it sewn like an open wound. Two signs, up in the lab will make it go kaboom. They said don't mix those two properties together, probably end up with some empty eye sockets or whatever. I'm only here to hunt pleasure like some treasure. Never from a whack pack of bitches like the Heathers. After this, you better owe them for some loot. You freaks, what the fuck would make me want some more soup?